Like some people out.
It's fully funded. It's fully funded.
Conversations.
Oh, that's what they sound like.
Ruin the fandom.
You are rooting the fandom, JD.
I know I am.
Support it.
Do you guys know who this Marvel Goblin Queen is?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a clone of Jean Grey.
Oh yeah. I'm browsing, trying to add things to my pre-order, and this thing just showed up, and I don't know who she is, but I want to get to know her. I think.
Why? What does she look like?
Oh man, that outfit.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed.
Really?
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff, Dave. Red hair too.
You know how they drew Jean Grey in the 90s. Like, she's all just hips and tits. That's it.
Oh, shit. My kind of girl.
Wrong.
Oh, well, look at this. It looks like we're live.
Oh, shit. They need to put a bell on that fucking button.
Yeah, I think we need to. Doesn't that make you happy?
It does, actually. It's
It
pretty
does,
cool.
right? I saw you smiling, Gary.
Dust did a good job for that.
So, welcome everybody to another edition of Breaking the Mold. It's Tuesday. You got your normal crew here with a special guest. We're gonna introduce that guest first because we're just so courteous and kind here on Breaking the Mold. So, let them know, Alex.
Lies.
Hey, guys.
What's up, man? Welcome.
Hey,
Hey, so people
up?
now know who you are. So,
Right.
tell us about you.
Be nice.
Transformers collector, Mythic Legions. Pretty new to the realm.
What's your name, son?
Alex
Yeah.
Briggs.
Hey. What's your handle?
It is Collecticon on Instagram. I'm not very active.
Collecticon. I've heard you mentioned a few times by some other people.
Yeah.
He gets around this kid.
Get around a little bit.
Yeah.
He sends stuff to Bobby and shit,
Yeah.
trying to get his name out there.
If I had some content, it'd be good to get my name out there, but I don't take very many pictures anymore.
So, Alex, when you watch Bobby manipulate your toys on camera, do you
Nervous.
get a little nervous?
Yeah. Especially with the Gigapower stuff, because, like, he already broke a grasser once.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know. I was nervous when I sent it, and got it back, and everything was fine.
All right. Well, that's good. It worked out. I never got to the end of that video, so I wasn't sure how it turned out.
No breakage, so it's good.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for joining us, Alex. We have a good discussion tonight, hopefully. Gonna start from my left with Mr. Brian Brink.
Yo, what's up, people?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I am doing good. I'm doing good. I forgot what I was gonna say.
That good.
Yeah, dude. I'm doing better than old HasLab Unicron. So
Ooh.
Womp womp.
his graph, his line is super straight. There ain't no elevation in there. It's a shame. It's a shame. But other than that, it's Tuesday. I can't wait to talk about what we're going to talk about. And yeah, man, it's getting cooler. I mentioned that yesterday. And con season is upon us. So I'm really, really
Yes,
happy.
it is.
Get to see some of you in person again, which is nice. It's always nice to see you in person.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not gonna be able to make it this weekend. But
Me neither.
I will be texting you to see if you see some stuff, so I can.
Of course you are.
Money.
Of course you are.
No. But that's good, man. Who's going to that? JD, you're going, right?
Yep. Chan and I will be there.
Cool.
Yo, Brian, I'm gonna tell you right now. Dave's looking for Mezco Green Arrow. So if you find it for a good price,
I had a chance to buy one the other day too, and I didn't do it and have the money at the time.
Mezco Green Arrow.
I think Chris got it from you.
That's an oldie?
Yeah, it's an oldie. Yeah, it's an oldie.
right now everybody's trying to complete their Justice League, so they slept on that, but they never did another one. So it's kind of tough to complete the team without Green Arrow.
Dude, is that a blast in the past I see in the chat? Is that Ojechi in there?
Get the fuck out of here!
It's been years, right? Ojechi's
Least.
back. How about that? Welcome back.
Oh,
Wow.
I feel special.
Yeah.
Wow.
She came in looking for Jose. I hope she's not disappointed.
So JD, what's up, man?
Hi. Hey there. What's going on, my lovely me bag friends?
We're doing
How
wonderful.
we
Thank you,
doing?
Jay.
Doing good, dude.
Good. So, yep. Just trucking along. Had a good weekend. My tooth hurts. And we'll leave it at that.
Which tooth?
One of my top right molars.
Ooh.
Is it the one all the way in the back?
It's either that one or the one right in front of it. I can't tell. Because the whole side of my fucking face hurts.
Oh,
Mm.
sorry to hear that.
It's okay.
So Oragel? Is it Oragel? Try Oragel.
Fuck that shit. That don't work.
No,
Work
it's not.
right
It's not gluten free, bro.
Okay, well. That's what happens when you eat all those cookies, buddy. With that natural fucking sugar.
Chan does make a lot of cookies.
Dude, it's anything that I eat now at this point. Past couple days. But whatever.
You just need a rock and an ice skate, man. Do it Tom Hanks style.
Rock
Whoa.
That shit right out.
Okay.
Wilson!
Dude, wasn't
I
that
mean-
scene cringy? That was nice.
That was cringy.
Shan said she'd yank it out for me, so
I'm sure she
I
will.
don't know if she was talking about my tooth though.
I knew it.
Dun, dun.
All right. So nice to hear from you, JD. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing great. It's really good to see you guys. I missed last week. I got stuck at work, so it's good topics tonight. So it should be some cool conversation. Alex, thanks for hanging out with us for a little bit.
Absolutely, anytime.
That was easy.
So diplomatic.
I'm just ready to get talking.
How you doing, Dom?
Doing good.
You getting ready for your
not-
trip?
Yeah, packing up. Going through some laundry, figuring out what needs to be washed so I can put it in the suitcase. So all that fun stuff.
Packing warm, aren't you?
I am. It's in the 40s.
Gonna-
It's in the
gonna-
40s in Iceland right now. So
Gonna need those
good fat man weather, you know.
yak pelts and shit.
It's like it's definitely got. I got my natural layers, and I just don't need that much layers on top of that. You know what I'm saying?
Did you get your sled dog set up?
Shout out to Wellness 2020.
Yeah. I waved at it. I waved at it when it passed me by. Don't remind me, Gary. Now I'm gonna just drown my sorrows in this bag of potato chips.
Drown your sorrows. Dude, it's going to be like deja vu all over again. A couple months.
Jesus, probably.
I just want a Pepsi. She won't give me a Pepsi.
I love my Pepsi. Diet Pepsi. That's the worst. But
Saccharine.
yeah, getting ready for the trip. It's gonna be fun. Got a couple more excursions to book for tomorrow, so we kind of settled on it. We were debating on a couple of them, so we just going to pick two of the ones that we're going to decide on, and we'll just book it. So it'd be fun. It'll be fun.
Oh, sorry. No. I was going to ask how's stuff for you.
Who, me?
You, yeah.
Oh, I'm good.
You had a big day the other day. I saw the picture.
Oh yeah, my daughter, man. She started pre-K on Monday, but it's funny because it was only an hour. So me and my wife had to go basically stay the day with her because within an hour, what are you gonna do? You can't leave.
Right.
They wanted her to get it kind of like accustomed to what's gonna happen. It's kind of hard when you have like 20 adults standing around at the same time.
Right.
So, but I think she did well. She immediately started playing with the Play-Doh with the kids when she walked in, which was cool. But she was very reserved, which is normal for her to be like that when she doesn't know anybody. But at the same time, I was kind of worried because like when they did the story time and the snack time, like she was just looking for us the entire time. So Wednesday's gonna be the real test when we just hand her over and like that's it, you're gone. Like, and they don't even let you walk her to school. They take her right out the car.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm glad I'm not gonna be there. It's gonna be my wife, so she's gonna have to deal with that shit. Because if it was me, I'd probably wind up like grabbing her back and be like, "No, she's not doing it today. We'll try another day."
Dave's wife's like, wait, she's been going to school for the last 3 months. Dave's like, no.
She's coming to work with me.
Yeah.
I'm taking the day off. It's all right.
Yeah.
But what was cool was, you kind of got to, because me being a first time parent, you really don't know what level your kid's at. You see other kids grow up, but you're not around them all the time. So it was cool to see like, her interact with other kids, and they sang like the ABCs, and she was like 1 out of 3 that was actually singing it.
That's
so
cool.
I was kind of happy about that because the rest of the kids were just like, going like this with their heads, and it was just like, all right, good. So we did right by her. She's not knocking into walls and shit like that. So
eating the glue and
right, exactly.
It was a very nice picture though that you posted. And I'll say, as someone who doesn't have any children, and having just seen her at your house a few months ago, and then seeing her in that picture, I was like, she went from being like looking like a toddler, playing, to like a little person in there. You know what I mean? So I can only imagine you're probably. That's cool. That's good. I'm not surprised. She's gonna do well. I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Very proud this week. Proud.
That's cool.
Aside from that, I'm here, happy to be here. It's Tuesday. I'm with a bunch of guys I like to hang around with. It includes Alex sometimes. And we're gonna have a decent discussion. I'm gonna kind of spring it off, and you guys could jump in when you feel like it. So basically, tonight's topic is mythic robots. In other words, what's the allure and differences to these two lines? If you had to choose today, which one would you pick? Longevity of these lines and its impact on your collection. So basically just, I guess, speak on whichever one you want, and let's get cracking. So I'll start, make it easy. So obviously Transformers is probably what got us all together. It's my first love. It's what I base my tag off, Energon Addict. And for some reason, no matter how long it goes in between buying a Transformer or actually handling one, it for something always draws me back to it, and I really can't tell you what it is. I want to say it's the cartoon growing up, the movie growing up, but I think it's beyond that now. It's more like it's just the way my mind works. So like I see a robot and I'm like, boom, I like it. Like I gotta know what it is, know what it's from, and I basically still look at my Transformers to this day, and some of them I haven't handled in probably a year or two, and I'll find something about it that kind of intrigues me again. So I'll give you an example. Earlier this week, everybody talks about the Sunstreaker. So when Sunstreaker came out, that was probably the most talked about Transformer for a bit after it was after Megatron, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really never gave it a chance. Like it looked great and I love it, but I never really got to fussing with it. And the other day I was really fussing with it, and I could see what all the talk is about. So, and the reason I did that is because I haven't opened my MP44 yet. And before I open that, I wanted to play with this to see if, it'll bring back that love that I have for it, because I almost debated on flipping it. I said, people haven't got it. I got it at the Japan Post price or whatever. And I think I'm going to keep it, just from fucking with Sunstreaker and playing with Megatron and some of the other bots and looking at them. I'm like, I think it's going to fit in well. And I haven't even touched it yet. It's still wrapped up in the plastic. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, I think for me, I'll just say for the Transformers portion, do you guys remember like in the early like 2000s, like 02, 03, for the G1, the Takara reissues that came in those like book sets, like with like the flap that opened, right?
Were they the white box?
Commemorative.
Yes, yeah, and they were all numbered, and this is like
Yep.
right before Toys R Us got some of their
Had the-
reissues.
Had the Dreamwave art on the cover. Right?
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was in a budget situation. I was saving for a house down payment, so I wasn't spending money on anything. And the only thing I collected back then, like '02, was just 3 3/4 Star Wars stuff. And I was in Chicago at the time, and there's a store that does a lot of online stuff. They go to a lot of conventions. They had a kiosk at the mall, and again, this is before all the news and all the sites and groups and anything. So to truly be surprised and to be walking through the mall, it's actually my mom was visiting me from Ohio at the time, and this Toy Inc. kiosk had all these like collectible stuff, and I saw these new G1 reissue Transformers. And I think they were like $40 at the time. And I was like debating hardcore. Like, yeah, I think they had Prime, they had Jazz, they had the Prowl. And I never had Jazz or Prowl as a kid for an Autobot car. And I was just looking at both of them, and I was debating. And I didn't get either one. I was like, I really can't spend the money because like every penny was going towards for the house I was buying. And so we walked around the mall, kind of just hung out, my mom and I. And again, as a grown adult, we walked by and she stopped and she bought it. And I ended up getting a G1 Prowl, in that case. And it took me like a couple of years before I even opened it. But I just loved opening the flap and seeing and knowing it was a G1. And that just kind of got me excited about Transformers again. And then Toys R Us had some of the reissues, and seeing again G1 stuff that was new. And then it started with that first MPO one. That I walked up on, I didn't know, and found. I think it was a Toys R Us also, and and I started with that, and then I started to pay better attention and did the first Megatron, the really tall, spindly one no one liked, and that first Starscream that was all green in that first mold for the MP scale, sort of scale, I guess, for those, and that kind of stuck me into that scale and third party stuff, and. But for me, I just, you guys kind of know, I enjoyed getting new stuff and seeing that character and seeing the different companies. And that, again, it was before I was part of the realm and had friends in the hobby. And it was just kind of discovering these different third-party companies and reading different things. And is almost more the experience of, being able to compare, and contrast like the different, brands, I guess, if you thought of it that way. That was... But it was all G1, a crisp, G1 that got me excited about them again years ago.
So, Gary, are you saying if you had to make a choice, it would be Robits?
So here's what's interesting is, so in that same time frame for me, if I had to choose one or the other, what do I have more fun with? I'm not a big Transformer, meaning the flipping back and forth mode guy. I'm really that guy. If it comes in robot mode, I treat it probably more as an action figure, change it to alt mode once and change it back for display. Or if it came in alt mode, transform it once and then display it that way. So the puzzle piece and stuff, it's interesting, but it's not my favorite part. They're more like action figures, but I do like to pose them and redisplay them. I was into the Masters Universe Classics when they were a thing in 08, and I did the subscription service. So if I had to pick one or the other, the Legion style 6-inch figures with the just the flexibility that you can do and interchangeability between different lines and getting things to work, I think is probably something I've had more fun with.
In other words, Gary,
it's a long explanation to say I'd go with Mythics, and fancy stuff versus the robots.
Gary wants fluffy muscle men.
So I think I do. It's so messed up. What does that say about me? I don't know. That's a different podcast. It's not for this one. No.
But Gary, so you told us how, like, you got back into it, but what keeps you into it? Like,
yeah, I think, and you guys know my collection's super fluid and stuff comes and goes. I enjoy the experience sometimes more than accumulation. I think what keeps me into it really right now is that drive to keep seeing how things improve, right? And how a character from a company, even a good company, comes out and, not finding the best version, but just finding the one that I like the most. So I'll just say, like today, seeing that Fans Toys spoiler, right? Their version of Breakdown come out. I think the alt mode looks awesome. The way they did the coloring and the white with the blue striping and stuff as a Lambo, and so that's kind of piqued my interest. And I have no desire to build Menasor or build that team. In fact, I don't have my Motor Master anymore. So I think that's just what keeps me interested, is just seeing how things keep evolving. I think it's exciting to see where it can be, and also just curiosity of where is it going to end up, with everything. We've had that discussion so many times,
5 years.
Right.
Yeah. But Gary, like, you're a big car dude, so I noticed that the car ones are the ones that get you most
They
excited.
do. They totally do. Sometimes I look at stuff, I'm like, the movie characters, and it's neat, and it's, the Cyclonus from Fans Toys versus, what a G1 Cyclonus look like. But you're right. It's always been kind of the alt modes, I think, that bring me back and getting me excited about some of the stuff. So yeah, sports cars and muscle guys, I guess, I'll just combine the two in the display, right? And I'll be all set. I'll tell my Mythic story too, and I'll stop talking for a little bit. I have to thank Brian Brink for that. So you guys know some of the shows we go to, right? And the Toy Con show in New Jersey, the Four Horsemen are there, and they have product. And before they had really kicked off, and this was spring of 2018, I think, right, Brian? Because we were at Chris's house. And that was the spring that I was buying the first Soul of Chigokin Voltron from Jose. He finally gave in to my whining and pestering for a year and sold it to me. So I was spending all my money on that at that rock swap in the parking lot. And I didn't buy Mythic Legions there. And there's that D&D character that I really, really liked. And Brian went back on Sunday after the show, and he bought some stuff and picked one up for me and gifted it to me and gave it to me we were at Chris Pinkerton's house. So that got me kicked off into the line. So,
and who would have knew that? Figure he went back to get you is like one of the hardest ones.
I know, right? Just
and
they had lots of them there, right? At that show, they had
tons.
trolls, they had those. It was, but we joke about enabling, right? And I just think it's always interesting how sometimes you do that, as a good gesture or maybe a bad gesture because you think you're funny and someone will get excited about it, but. That's kind of what got me hooked on it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thinking back, I'm like, damn, I should have bought one of those for myself.
Oh, you didn't?
I did not. No, I do not own Rhaegor / with the War Duke homage Mythic Legion. Yeah. But
we got two of them there. I think
I just enjoy it now when I see it in person when I go to JD's house. I'm like, oh look, there it is, the one that got away. The one that got gifted away.
The one that got away.
Oh, that's fine. It's all fine. Who's next?
I'll go. Well, I'm just an 80s, 80s child product. So like I was into pretty much everything. Transformers was definitely on top of the list. This was funny because when I started getting into collecting and I decided to, what do I want to collect? I was going through Star Wars. Star Wars was always my biggest love, and but like going back and trying to get a lot of the original releases stuff and like the stuff that I was looking for at the time and trying to recapture that nostalgia. Like I was like, it's just too much. It's too much fucking figures, too much vehicles. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do it. So Transformers was like something that I knew. The 84s, there was like, not that many. So I was like, what, I could probably collect Transformers and get them all. And, the prices at the time weren't that expensive to get some G1 figures. And so I was like, what, let me just go with Transformers. But I also like was into, the funny thing is my brother was like a big space guy. He loved space. He would get the telescopes when we were kids. He would get, space shuttles and all that good shit. And then like me, I was more the Dungeons and Dragons, Knights, Goblins, and all that stuff. So like basically every time we would go to my aunt's house, she would always get like my brother the Space Odyssey, and then I would get like a Dungeons and Dragons type book where I would read like these mythic like stories in regards to knights and kings and dragons and all that stuff. So it was just I don't know whether that kind of drove myself into loving that type of lore and then getting into obviously The Hobbit and reading it in school and understanding Tolkien and basically, yep, nobody likes you. You don't have any friends. That's a great scene. But like that like, you know, just when that movie came out, I was there. Like I needed to go watch it, needed to go see it, and it was kind of a lore, like, you know, that type of atmosphere and that storytelling was just what I enjoyed. So when Mythics, like when we were there in that show, it was definitely like I wasn't jumping at it, but like once, you know, we saw some of those figures, and like you look at the back of the cards and they showed some of the 1.0 figures, and I'm like, and it's funny because you start talking to those guys and you're asking them if these, where's, you know, where can I get this figure, where can I get this figure, where most of the knights that came out in 1.0, and like they're looking at me like, yeah, you can't, you know, it's gonna be really hard to pick those up. And I'm like, shit. So like all of a sudden, like, you know, I didn't really do any research on it. So like I didn't know how hard they were going to get to pick up those older figures and how pricey they were. So at the time I just jumped on a couple. I remember, Brian, I got the Rygar. I think I got the Skeletor and the He-Man and that Black Knight with the gold trim. That was very popular at the show. So I picked I forgot what his name, Brian, but you picked up for a friend. I remember that was when
Romulus, right?
Yeah, Romulus, yeah.
The Spartan.
So like, yeah, so like, you know, and with Spartacus and fucking, you know, that whole series and Stars, you know, I just loved it. Like, you know, I love the Gladiators and stuff like that. So it all talks to me. So like at the end of the day, when I saw what they were doing, it was right after that show, I was just going on eBay and I started picking up a lot of those older figures that cost, you know, they were going for like $70, $80, and some of them over 100. So
now some of those they're up in like 200
range. Yeah. So it's you know, like I said, it's like anything else. You know, it's the late tax type of deal, but like, you know, it's up to you on whether you want to spend that type of cash. It's hard, especially on a 6-inch figure. But, you know, with the quality and the paint that they have, and they're not the super articulated figures like SH Figure Arts or anything like that. But, you know, just the quality, the paint on them, it's just beautiful. They look beautiful. And, you know, I'm glad that I got into the line, and I'm probably going to stick with it until they just stop making more, and then when they stop making anymore. So I like where they're going. I hope, you know, and I think they're making the right moves, and hopefully we get a lot more good shit. So that's kind of like, but between the two, like, you know, I can't see myself giving, like, if I had to give up one, I probably would give up Mythics, because the Transformers is my first love. So out of like that whole thing, like, you know, Transformers has been a large part of my collecting, and it would be hard for me to give that up. So, but if I had to pick one, Transformers would definitely be the one I pick. I would have to sacrifice Mythics. It'd be hard. I'll cry for about a week. I'll give it that. And probably regret it after a month and then buy them all back. But, you know, that's kind of how, you know, it would roll. Probably it'd be ugly. It'd be really ugly. Dave would come. The house would be pitch black. You know, have like old, you know, takeout food on the floor. You know, it'd just be very ugly.
I'd be stocking my car up with all his Mythics. Hey, you don't want them no more. They're mine now.
Yeah.
Clearance.
So.
Get the fan, bro.
You splitting that with me, right, Dave?
Oh, wow.
Said the guy who has like 6 of every figure.
Yeah, 6 of every.
Well, one's mine, one's Chan's, and one's the dog that we have in the house.
That's both of ours.
It's the guy that has a townhouse for all his Mythic Legions. He's like building a realm.
A room. My goodness. They have
A dedicated room.
It's got 3 floors.
One room.
JD, tell us more about that. So, what made you dedicate a room to Mythic Legion?
Well, basically the diorama that we started building, and the progression at what we, you know, that these were multiplying in our household kind of prompted that, you know what I mean? We built this giant diorama for it, and, you know, that it kind of needed its own room. So, I mean, when it's all said and done, it'll be all the Matty Collector stuff in that, and the Mythic Legions in there together.
Do you have like a end goal with that, with the dio, or are you just gonna keep growing and growing?
I mean, like, we're so close to having the actual dungeon part done, like the cave and everything. I know that, like, probably the last time I talked about it was I was switching things up on how I was building the cave, but like everything's almost done. And then we're gonna start on the next layer. And I mean, we'll just keep building. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a parfait.
I figure if we can get like a sort of like a ruin with a battlefield and a tower, yeah, I'll be happy with that. You know what I mean? Instead of like
Battlefield, right?
well, for this next layer, you know, like half of it just have like, you know, ruins.
I want the army on this side.
Some trees, you know what I mean? Like one of the big things playing through like Skyrim and stuff like that is like you're whether you're on horseback or just on your like stuff like that, man. You're just trucking along this path or whatever, and you see something
That's
in
Stevie's
the
living room
woods,
right now.
and you end up hulking out at some ruin, you know, and it takes you down into this dungeon, and you end up getting totally sidetracked. But you know, just weird stuff like that. It would be, you know, that's kind of what I was thinking, in the direction we would go with it. But
And you could never do that with Transformers if you wanted to, right?
no,
Just unless you were doing Legends, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like you would do that on a smaller scale with Transformers.
See, that's the problem. That's the problem I'm having. I mean, with both. I mean, Mythic Legions, they're not the smallest things either. You know, they're really not. Even especially with all their weapons and everything on.
Mm-hmm.
They're constantly falling. You know, so when you try to display them, it's like it's a pain in the neck.
Well, I'll say this: I appreciate the way what JD does with his dials for sure, because I think it really brings them to life. But I feel, I mean, you guys tell me, just seeing photos of like Mythic Legions, it's conducive to like volume building, I think, and I think a lot of displays of them are done not for the dynamics of the display, but to just showcase volume. And they do. You're right, David. It looks very crowded to me. It becomes too easy. I don't know. And you can troop build 3 3/4, Cobra Troopers or Stormtroopers, right? And do that big display if you like that kind of thing. But sometimes, 6-inch figures, if you have, 12 of them in a spot, it takes a lot of space, I think, to make that look dynamic and interesting, and just not a big pile of plastic,
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of different. Like each Transformers, it feels like it's better to have less on a shelf.
Agreed. Yeah.
With Mythic Legions, you need to have like 6 or 7 that fit together to make a scene look good on your shelf.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the two of them are opposites on the ends of what you actually collect. Like a hot toy looks great by itself in a DTOF. But if you put 1 Mythic Legion or 2 Mythic Legions in there, it looks like you're wasting a lot of space.
Right.
So I mean, that's what kind of drove me to Mythic Legions, was being able to build dioramas and scenes and have that creative outlook on what I was collecting, and not just having a hobby where I was buying something, putting it on the shelf, and never touching it again.
Did you guys ever customize G.I. Joes with the rubber band as a kid?
Yeah.
Right. So
What?
when you look at like this character has like a knife on his left leg, and this character, you know how they're like molded, right? Just their design, and this character had like grenades, for stuff. So it's interesting because I realized I do something similar with the characters. Is I don't need volume for scenes, but I'm looking at the ones I have out right now, and trying to build like my version of like the best character that I like with that stuff. You know what I mean? By
Yeah,
swapping the parts and stuff like that. So
Wait. What'd you say about rubber bands?
well, so remember like the G.I. Joes, right? They had the rubber band in the waist, like the 80s figures. And
Yeah.
really, they could hold a weapon, but they'd have stuff just molded on the different characters. So if you took the rubber band out, you could put the pants from this one with like the body of this one and change
Yeah, you
arm.
can swap the bottom.
Yeah. And in doing so, you could essentially pretend, that, okay, now this guy has grenades, on a bandolier across his chest, and they have knives on both both legs, right? The way they were molded, and you could essentially make your own character that way, just by reassembling them in that part. So I find myself doing something similar versus building volume, which is how can I, what weapons can be stored, what ways, how can you use those, the straps for weapons, or around an ankle, or around an arm differently and stuff. So it's interesting, which I think is why they're kind of probably more fun to me.
Oh, so if someone made bandoliers for Transformers and knives and stuff,
Well, they
would
did
that,
for that Dinobot, right?
would that do it for you?
No, I mean,
Yeah, there was like that weapon pack for
For Dinobot, like,
Dino or Beast Wars. Yeah.
yeah.
they did it for the G2 Sideswipe, right? The whole
Oh,
common thing, right, with the bandoliers and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I just think there's more flexibility with them, which is kind of similar to when I was into the Motu Classics, when they would make those weapons packs and things like that for them, and they'd basically just be the weapons from different characters molded in crazy colors, and you could mix and match some stuff sometimes. It, I had more fun putting that stuff together that way sometimes than I guess just transforming stuff back and forth.
Do you
What
feel
if-
like? I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, Alex.
Do you feel like it's because you're more attached to the lore for Transformers? Like, you can't put Starscream next to Optimus Prime and have them be friendly because you know the lore. And with Mythic Legions, I never read any of that stuff. So, like, I can give him whatever weapon I want and it doesn't matter. Or I can put him with whoever I want and it doesn't matter. So you have that flexibility for your...
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say that, Alex, because I think with Transformers, you already have that fiction. You already have that set lore that you can't. Granted, as a child, you or right now you can do an what if type of scenario, but it's already been fed to us on who the good guys are, who the bad guys are, what character Starscream is, and what personality Megatron is, and all that stuff. So it's no changing that in your head in regards to the displaying of those figures or collecting of those figures. So like with Mythics, you have that creativity. There is a lore. There is some written there, but you definitely, with what it is, you can definitely change it up really easy and make your armies, make your own lore, and say, this is my good guys, this is my bad. You can make the orgs good, and then and the vampires bad. Like, I'm saying, like you could throw it out whatever you want and build that army set of that diorama and featuring that lore and that scene that you're looking for. So,
but you know what you made me think about,
that's what I would do.
Alex, was and I just thought of this, is the way that people collect their Transformers sometimes isn't just the lore, but it's also so much more structured, right? Everyone talks about
seasons.
Yes, season 1, season 2, the movie bots, IDW stuff, all those different things, for the different lines. And I think that, and when you're, in that collecting that, I don't know, just collecting that line, you hear so much more of that. So I think it puts a lot more, rigidity maybe into how people display it, and you just start feeling that way.
Yeah.
The thing with Transformers for me is, like, I fell in love with the characters, like the character builds of Transformers, and just the Optimus Primes, the Soundwaves. Granted, it's cool as shit, and robots changing into vehicles and planes and shit. Don't get me wrong, but like what Hasbro did in bringing it out into the media and the cartoons and comics and all that stuff, they gave it stories, they gave it characters that you fall in love with, and I think with Mythics, it's not the individual characters that you're falling in love with. It's just the entirety of the world,
Right.
and the possibilities that you can do, and just what creativity that opens up for you. So, and then that both play in regards to my collecting, because I love that creativity, that army building type aspect, and good and bad, evil, like, because they all have their factions, so you can just basically build evilness within the faction as well, like, so you could have the good knights and the bad knights and all that bullshit that you can just create. And at the end of the day, Transformers is just, I'm sure you're going to have, like, the backstabbers character, the backstabbing characters like Starscream and stuff like that within the evil, Decepticons. But I just feel like, it's just so character driven in Transformers. The lore was already there, the characters were there, the story was already there, so there's no creativity or no changing it to where that's what's been fed to you. So
You know what I find interesting, Dom, is like you said, you a lot of what you said is basically just using your imagination.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like
Oh
you're
yeah,
just using your imagination. You actually said making a war happen or having different factions and stuff of your own, as opposed to
Yeah.
something that's already laid out for you. And I think that's what it is opening up a different piece of our mind that we might have had when we were kids, where we actually used our imaginations, as opposed to nowadays where everything's just drawn out for you, and basically that's the story's already the way it is. You can't really do much about it. With this
I
one, it's
like
just
it.
open ended. Like you could just do whatever you want with it. I think that's what actually is getting us intrigued. That and the fact that you could just make it whatever you want. You don't have to buy a character and keep it like that. You can buy a
Exactly.
character and pop his legs off, pop his armor off, and put it on somebody else, and you just made a new character.
And
Right.
and the toy line the toy line is privy to that. Like that's what it's made for. So and people who are collecting this line, the pictures and the customs that they're making it's just unbelievable. Like and they're using not just the parts within that toy line of Mythics. They're using other parts and other weapons and being really creative and other sidekicks and animal sidekicks, like as you say, Gary, and bringing them in.
I love it.
I
so
want.
like
Go
even
ahead.
even if you didn't have the imagination, you could take the characters that you know and love that have already been written through the years and apply them to these characters. Like the guy you just tore apart to make the new guy. You know what I mean? There's your Starscream personality.
Right.
And you could apply those traits.
Mhm.
I don't know, just
Like a snag looking character.
sure.
Does availability of the product impact you guys at all?
Availability of the product.
So meaning the readiness of new product or the ability to acquire
Yeah.
more of each line.
Mm,
Two people
not
are
for me.
dropping out. Just curious.
Well, for me, because I wanted to get in Mythic Legions, but I didn't want to pay Big Bad Toy Store prices. Dave ended up getting me a bunch of stuff from ToyCon.
Yeah.
Is that where it was? And I mean, that's how I kind of jumped into this line. I bought some stuff from Chris because I think Chris is still downsizing his Mythic Legion stuff. And so that was really my jumping off point because I didn't want to spend $50 on a figure, even though I did that this week. I spent close to $60 on this, the Blood Armor Knight guy that I wasn't even thrilled about, like when I got him. But like the way this line works, where I can just pull him apart and repaint him, and it's super easy, no sanding or anything like that. It's
Mhm.
great. But I feel like this line's more popular because it's limited. Because people think they have to buy now. They always, it's kind of like how Fans Toys works. They're going to put something out. You got to get it right away. If you don't get it, you're going to pay double or triple. So I think that's one thing that if they do release more steadily, it might actually hurt the popularity of the line.
Well, it's an interest. The reason I asked that is I mentioned this one, a few times before. But when Mattel did the Masters Universe, stuff when they were first doing their website and the whole Matty Collector thing when it was a new thing. Anyone who collected that line back then could remember how awful it was. I mean, we think the Mythic Legions, the in stock sale stuff was annoying that several weeks or 2 months ago. It was the same every month. There was like the release date, and if you didn't get the figure and get it in your cart and check out, then you were stuck. It would sell out, and you weren't able to do it. And it was almost like they did it on purpose so that you would get the subscription service. So you wouldn't have to go through that awful experience every month. But at the same time, collecting the line, it was exciting to know that, hey, every month there's a new character coming out. And some months there might be two. And some months there might be like a larger, some of the vehicles they did or the larger figures. But it was just that knowledge that throughout the year, there's like something new coming out, all the time. And it was more or less a guarantee. Where I think the flow of new Transformers kind of ebbs and flows, right, in terms of like the volume quite a bit, and then in seasonality maybe in times of the year. And you're right, the Mythics also, it's a bit more inconsistent, and it's a lot of, everyone who gets in that line knows you got to pre-order and wait and wait and wait, or you're catching up, at the late tax, as we like to say.
Yep.
So I don't know. I just think I do think my interest can change with the availability of new stuff also.
Yeah, you're right. And Gary, like I just noticed like Transformers, it seems like a lot is coming out. Like you said, seasonality of it. Like TFCon's around the corner. So I'm gonna try not to buy anything until then. Because I just see like I notice a lot of things seem to be coming out soon, right? Like at least with fans toys.
Yeah.
It's like 2 or 3 bots coming out in the next month. And
Yeah.
it's like shit, the fuck? Like I wasn't prepared for that.
Right.
Meanwhile, at the
Space
same
Battle.
time, Mythic Legions, their pre-order sale ends on the 30th, and it's like, hey, do I order these now because I have to, or do I wait and try to get them at one of the shows? And I could tell you now, I'm not gonna do that. I'm probably gonna have to order them because even when we go to these shows, for some reason, sometimes not all the products there. So I just don't want to take that risk. So you're better off just pre-ordering what you want right away.
Well, I mean, if you pre-order everything right away, though, then where's the fun in going to the show and standing in line and having armfuls of mythics? Be
Or
like,
having your
"Oh,
friend elbow you. Your
Right.
friend elbow you.
Yeah.
Out of the
face."
way.
Who
I don't know. I'm just saying. It
who
happens.
does that?
Hey, I'm gonna need
All
somebody to stand in line for me, so somebody better be going there to get Mythic Legions.
Hey, I did it last year. Who's next?
Hey, hey, Alex, I dropped out for a bit. So did you make a choice, or are you still
Oh.
going?
So my choice would definitely be Mythic Legions, just because it gives me something more to do with the figure than look at it on the shelf.
Hmm.
Like I like to be able to pull it apart, put some paint on. Like I sculpted that beard on that dwarf and sculpted the hair, and it's something I can. I think Dave and I have talked about this. Like if you're not thinking about your display, your hobby is just shopping,
Mm-hmm.
and like you might as well go to the grocery store and buy your stuff if you're not thinking about where you're going to put them, how you're going to pose them, what you're going to put on the shelf with it. And the hardest thing about Transformers is always the display. Like I've got those 2 giant Zeta bots behind me, and they drive me nuts because I don't know where to put them. I don't know what to buy to put them in, and it's just every day I'm trying to think of another way to display them so they look good.
Now it's funny that you say that. Going to the grocery, you're just shopping. Your hobbies are. You know what? I'm converting all these shelves into a big pantry. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna
But I
stock
mean,
them in there.
If you're
They'll
just
be-
going to shop, just buy gold.
Oh,
You
buy
know,
gold?
just buy a whole bunch of gold because
Hmm.
it's going to be a better investment than this plastic is.
Like gold, yes, gold.
Maybe. I don't know.
Brian, I don't think I heard what you had to say about
Yeah.
Yes,
So
I'll go
It's a-
last. I
this
want
is
to go last.
this is a really tough choice. You've all made pretty good points. I could probably agree with all of them. I mean these are Dave. I try to wonder. Like when I was a kid, I was all into robots. Robots.
No.
I didn't care if it was Transformers, converters, GoBots, whatever else kind of 5 and 10 store toys that there were. I just liked robots a lot too. Um, I find now that I'm collecting this stuff though, I have kind of gravitated just to the Transformers. I tried picking up a GoBot or two, but it was just like, you know what? I got other things to do. But I tell you, it is that childhood nostalgia that really pushes Transformers, I think, over the edge for me.
Bri-
If I was to make a choice.
Brian, does this put you over the edge?
Oh yeah.
I could watch this scene
Yeah.
every day and still get as hype as I did when I was like 4 years old.
Gosh.
Or 5 years old, whenever it came
Dude.
out.
And it's funny too. I mean, obviously, one of my tasks here in the realm is pulling news for our Monday night show, and I try to like watch something while I'm doing it, so I'm not just scraping and downloading pictures, and I always end up going to like Tubi TV and watching Transformers, because even if I'm not watching it, I can hear it, and it just gets me in a good mood. It's like the bum 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 bum, doom, 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 you know what I mean? Ba, 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 ba. Da, da, da. you know, whatever. And dude, and then like I'll end up, you know, stop, pull the news, go get a figure off the shelf, fuck around with it. You know, it's there really is some love there for sure. And we talked about display options, and it is kind of tough for Transformers, considering how large they are. But you know, they're making little ones now. They're making little tiny ones. I mean, JD, I think you can make a battlefield for Legends Transformers, don't you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Love is a battlefield.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you know,
You got Orgel? Salt?
think of
Listerine
consolidating
Cool Mint. There you go, buddy.
that display
Mhm.
space with the small Transformers. But then again, of course, the bigger ones are really nice to look at. And that's another thing I want to talk about is both of these lines, the figures that we have are fascinating to look at. Another problem I have coming into this room, sometimes I have to work in this room. It's you know, you can just pick one up, sit it down in front of you, and I can stare at it for like 20 minutes. You know, look at it from one. I mean, robots are very, very interesting. Specifically, um, you know, if you think about the Masterpiece line, how it does take that aesthetic from the tune and from the toy, and it's just an overall good, large representation of the figure. And looking at it from different angles is just really, really cool. But when we first started getting these mythics, the same thing. You know, I'll pull a few out and stick them in front of me and move that over there a little bit more, move this over there a little bit more, and put them in poses. And again, they're just so fantastically sculpted. You can just be mesmerized by them. Oh man, it's a tough choice, but I think all in all, I would probably go down the route of Transformers, and perhaps Mythics would just be a long-term phase. But the funny thing is about that Mythic Legions line, as you guys said, is I don't need a nostalgic or a specific nostalgia or lore for them. Um, I'm really just kind of fascinated. I think as an appreciation aspect from a toy collector, basically. Um, the but I will say from a fiction standpoint, that's my probably my favorite fiction. I don't know if you guys have been watching this Dark Crystal
Yeah.
prequel series, but I mean, I'm totally looking past the fact that these are puppets. Obviously, they have high production value. This series does, but just the mythic lore of it, you know, is very fascinating. Looking up obscure shows on Netflix and Amazon to watch that, you know, take place in this swords and sorcery world. I mean, I could watch that stuff all the time, and 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 I think that's probably another reason why I kind of gravitate to these mythics at some point, because they just kind of, it's another embodiment of that, right? Because even some of those sword and sorcery shows, I mean, some of them kind of have an established fiction that you might know of, but a lot of times it's just like an hour and a half of, I don't know who these people are about, but I dig that time frame. And I tell you, man, I would love to live in a mythic time as long as there was flushing toilets. I'm good. Um, yeah, so I guess that's my choice. I tell you, Transformers is kind of hurting, kind of putting the hurt on mythics here. What are we at? 5-1, 5-2, 4-2, 3-2. I can't count. 3-2.
Yeah, I went Transformers. Yeah.
Yeah, Dave went Transformers. Me.
I didn't actually pick yet.
Yeah.
I just said,
Oh,
Oh,
I didn't pick either.
yeah.
yeah, and I know Alex chose Mythics and Gary chose Mythics. Hey, Gary, real quick. Let's say Transformers took
Mhm.
place in a mad. Ooh, here we go. Hmm.
Mm.
Um,
Wait, who was that? The Chamberlain and who?
Oh,
This is
Who was he fighting?
what was his
that's
name?
from the movie.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's from the original one, right?
yeah.
He's a Skeksis, but I
something.
can't think of what his name is.
yeah, we never got a name.
He's not
for
in the
him.
new show yet, so
He made that
Okay.
annoying noise all the time, though.
Hey,
Anyway.
what's the What was I saying?
You're
Gary.
saying something, yeah.
Yeah, Gary.
So Gary, what if Transformers took place in like a Mad Max type of thing, where they were kind of like all decked out in bandoliers and weird guns and whatnot?
So let's think about this, right? So if they were like the Junkions, but take that image and apply it to like the Autobots and the Stunticons, right, and all that type of
Mhm.
right kind of thing. Yeah, I could get behind that a little bit better.
Yeah.
See that?
Of
And you
course,
could
Josh
customize
knew
it.
that.
What'd you say?
And you could
Josh knew
customize
it.
it, right?
As long as the Rock's driving.
No, I'm. You know, I've realized something. Sorry.
What does The Rock turn into, though? Like, if he's a
With
Transformer, turn
with
it.
sleeveless shirt.
And Triple X, he's got to be there too.
Triple X.
I don't know. He's always cooking. I would think he'd transform into a food truck.
Wasn't that what the
Oh,
Unwrestable Bastards was, though?
Yeah, dude, that line had some promise there.
Yeah.
Where is it now, though? Like,
Yeah, well,
it
unfortunately,
came and went that quick.
Yeah, but I think that was
on an
more or less-
NJCC table near you.
that was that was poor management more than anything. I think.
Do you
I don't
think
know.
that these things fail in the Transformers community, like these things like Unwrestable Bastards, because the lore is so established that if you change, like, think about the outcry whenever they made Megatron and Autobot in IDW. You know, people that didn't read the comics were like, "This is stupid. How could he be?"
Yeah, how could they do that? But
Right.
meanwhile, that story was fucking great.
Right.
You know?
And now, do you think that like that's holding the brand back to have this lore that's so ingrained in people?
And the problem, yeah, that's the problem. Is we've been saying it for years. I mean, they've come out with comic books. They've come out with other, other kinds of cartoons. You know, you got Prime and all that other stuff, but G1 hasn't come out with anything for adults, and I think
Right.
that's what we're all looking for right now.
It's
Besides,
funny that-
besides the comics.
it's funny that you bring up that, Alex, because you would typically think it would be accepted from the way the Transformers has gone through the decades. You know what I'm saying? Transformers is constantly changing. It's
Right.
you know
It's in the name.
it's in the name. So
Yeah.
it's like, when but like you have a fandom that is so loyal to their specific
Yeah.
exposure, and anything outside that, they tend to say, that's not my Transformers. So it's like, it's weird. Like but then you also have a certain other people in the fandom that are more accepting to the changes that have occurred in Transformers. From line to line, from decade to decade, and it's funny because you would think that flexibility or that changing and that creativity to an open, a little shift or a shattered glass type view
Sure.
from Transformers, it's be like, everybody should be accepting and no problem, but like it's not, and it's
Yeah.
weird. Like it's
Well,
kind of weird.
I'm not to change subjects or anything, but it's kind of the same way with Star Wars. Like, everybody wants Star Wars to remain how it was, and the story's changed, it's evolved, and you got so many people that are hating it and not letting it progress because they no, we want Luke, Yoda, and fucking Darth Vader.
Forever.
Nothing else matters. You know what I
Right.
mean? Fuck Ray, fuck BB-8, fuck Kylo. But that's not. We're not the ones making these movies, so
Right.
you just gotta accept for what it is. I've been saying that forever. And
Yeah. Well, I feel with Star Wars, like I understand where you're coming from, Dave, but I feel like Star Wars, a lot of hatred. It's just people infatuated with the character and where that character should go.
well, we're talking about the same thing with Transformers, though, right? Like everybody believes this character should only be going in this direction.
I'm not even taking it from character based on Transformers. I'm just taking it like, you go from G1, robots changing into vehicles, and then you go to Beast Wars where robots are changing to animals, and then you go right from Machine Wars and then back to car robots, and then you got your whole Unicron trilogy and all that different renditions of what Transformers look like, and people, it's just not even character based. It's just a different spin on what they look like and what they transform into.
It just comes down to like the substance, Armada and Cybertron. I watched them as a kid, and they just didn't have the same substance that G1 did. And then if you read the IDW comic books, I mean, that's the Megatron that I thought of as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Like his character in IDW is the one that I pictured whenever I was playing with the toy. Was like this pragmatic guy that's, you know, trying to do what he thinks is the right thing. It's not like he's Cobra Commander. He's, you know, thinking more along the lines of what's best for his race.
Correct. He's like the movie Thanos type of, like, you know,
Right.
his methodology is right in his eyes, you
Yeah.
know, and that's his truth. Where, you know, Optimus has his other truth and his beliefs in regards to
And
where they should go.
Yeah, and go back to Star Wars. I think we got that from Luke in that last movie. That, like, he's seeing that this is the way it has to end. You know, like, this is the way to stop it all.
Correct. But, like,
Right.
I think a lot of the hatreds in Star Wars is because people had a love for a character like Luke,
Right.
and felt like, you know, the direction of Luke should be this. You know, and it's not. But, like, I am a Star Wars fan with the new trilogy. Like, I'm interested in Kylo's story. I'm interested in Rey's story. I'm interested if the story was somewhat, you know, hashed out and built up a little bit more, which I think it's failed to do.
Sure.
So if they give me a Star Wars story and do like a Rebels where, you know, or like, you know, like any of the cartoon series that they're going and they're building these characters and getting them into situations, and, you know, and the story is really good, then I'm all for Star Wars because I love that world. And I hope they, you know, they go off the unbeaten, you know, Skywalker story and do
Right.
other stories and get into that lore, because there's so much of it, and, you know, they can get into some really good stuff.
Well,
Would you watch a Star Wars sitcom though? Like, say it's just like a family living on a moon somewhere. Would you watch?
I would, like, if this family, like, I would. I can't. I don't know what he's showing. So, what he's
Oh, you're good. You're good, Dom. You would watch a sitcom.
Yeah, I would. I like just watching a sitcom of a family that was, like, you know, happy, and then all of a sudden the war, like, just blew up their, like, you know, this war blew up their life, and how they handle it, and like the son goes off to being a stormtrooper or whatever the case. The family gets torn apart, and it's
That's
that
not a
type of
sitcom.
drama.
That's
Yeah, it's not a sitcom.
It's like a drama.
Yeah,
It's a drama sitcom. It's like
No,
fucking facts of life. Dude. The fucking
it's situation
what's a
comedy.
sitcom?
So
It's ironic circumstances that generate humor, and you're sending a family torn apart off to war. That's not
Well, I'm
really-
sure there's some humor about it. You could, like, have like a sitcom with fucking stormtroopers.
Didn't they try that once and then call it the holiday special? By the way,
yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it
Well,
worked.
the Ewok. I would say the Ewok movie was almost a sitcom. Well, no,
So
maybe not.
let me ask this question to you guys: think about the most recent, you know, items you've opened between, let's say, a Star Wars item, a Transformer, and a Mythic, and what's gotten you the most excited just as soon as you open it.
That's just it, Gary. All of it makes me excited.
No,
So that's the problem I have. I can't pick one because I that's the thing. At least with my collecting is I'm glad I collect different things because I fall in and out of love with things constantly.
I don't know if I believe you. The fact that, you know, opening a
Ooh.
figure art Star Wars and opening, you know, a Mythic Legion character you've tracked down and had to find,
All right.
or opening a third party Transformer makes you feel the same way.
Okay. So I'll give you an example, right? I haven't got nothing Transformer related in quite some time, but the last thing that really got my juices flowing was that Drift that I never got, that Dom secured for me. And when I got it, I couldn't put it down for a week. But that's me. You know what I mean? That's me. That's my personality. A week and then it sits in the back until I pick it up again. But a week for me is a long time with the 5,000 toys that I have in my house. So that got me.
5,000. Wow, impressive.
I'm giving you an example. You have 5,000 in your mom's, you have 3 in yours. I got you.
Jesus Christ!
You
just can't take one. Like, you can't take it and just keep rolling with it, can you?
No.
You have to dish it. And what, Brian, speed up on the gifts when fucking when the little boy over here is fucking talking. He's gifting me every fucking time I speak. Gift him every time he speaks. Put somebody I don't know.
So I lost track of what the fuck I was saying. But Gary, back
access.
to what you said. So you didn't believe me, right? So Mythic Legions 2 weeks ago, I couldn't stop talking about because I was popping the arms off, popping the heads off. I was making characters I never made before, but I haven't picked up a Mythic Legion in a week. Well, because I got a Hot Toys Yoda that came in yesterday, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is the best thing on fucking earth."
But I guess
today,
I was trying to say,
what
makes you, a certain feeling. So Brian articulated really well on ETR last night, or when I listened to it this morning, around the MP44. No, but he was explaining about
better than you, Dave.
What goes into
better than you.
No, he was articulating the. Stop it, Dom. No, but he was describing like why that figure was so unique and how it wasn't just another third party G1 style Optimus Prime, and what was I thought it's just the best explanation of what the whole package was for that. So I have a feeling, Brian, opening that, did that get you more excited than some other stuff in a while?
Yeah, indeed, Gary. I mean, I've got a stack of Mythics I haven't opened. Every new Figure Arts Star Wars that's come in lately, I haven't opened. I'm still waiting to see how this all pans out in December.
I see where Gary's
that
going
example, though. That's Mr. Optimus Prime. Of course, it's going to get his fucking dick hard when he gets to it.
So what I'm trying to get at is, listen, whether we collect them or not, people can agree that Hot Toys items are very impressive to look at. But sometimes you might open one and be, okay, yeah, it's really nice, but maybe you're afraid to manipulate it, or you're being so cautious with it because it's so expensive that it takes away the fun. Whereas opening the $50 or $60 Mythic Legions, you can't wait to get the twist ties off because you can manipulate it and pose it and play with it and arrange it and not have to worry quite so much. So I'm just trying to,
I agree with
that feeling, of when you open something for the first time. What does it really look like for the different lines? Because I'll tell you the truth, like I'm guilty of when I get bored and if I go buy a Marvel Legends that I don't really collect as a line, just because there's a character I think looks kind of fun and it's my short-term fix of entertainment. Opening a Marvel Legends package is terrible. Like you open the box and you pull that thing out of the plastic. It's like a Black Series Star Wars. It's not fun. It feels cheap. And as soon as it's open, I'm like, what a waste of $20. Because it didn't really do anything. So I was just trying to make a point, I guess, about sometimes the way you feel when you look at something.
Some things digest differently. Like I'm not going to go open a figure I spent $350 on when I know I only have a certain amount of time to play with it. You know what I mean? So like my SOC, the Voltron came in, I had to wait till nobody was in the house in order for me to open it. Cause unless it's a Tuesday night when they know I can't, don't disturb me when I'm in this room, daddy, babe, want to watch a movie. Like I don't get a minute to myself. So I would never open something that, like you said, I'm scared of breaking or scared of whatever in a rush. But a Mythic Legion, I could open up on my couch, like you said, while they're jumping all over me. If my daughter drops it on the floor, I'm all right because I know nothing's gonna happen. So I totally get what you're saying with that. I just think that they get digested differently. You can't compare a $350 toy to a $35 toy.
No, that's fair. I think sometimes the emotional response. So when we were at NJCC, I'm not a Mezco collector. I've had a couple of specific characters. I could have given two. I even said on the show, right? I didn't understand the whole Gomez thing and why it was so popular and their homemade character. But getting to see a couple of those open for the first time, I'm like, okay, I get it. I can see why this is cool. You know what I mean? Just the initial impression that opening those boxes led to. So I think sometimes there's an emotional piece that you can feel that way too about this.
So packaging is important to you, Gary.
I'm not talking about the package. I'm talking about the initial feeling you get when you see what the item really looks like. Kind of like that instinctive feeling. It could be excitement, it could be thrill, it could be nervousness. of, hey, I just spent all this money. I don't want to break this freaking thing, right? When I am
Okay.
doing stuff with it. I'm just
No,
trying to
yeah.
that.
I went from you when you were talking. I was just like,
No,
like you were saying, you opened up a Marvel Legend, and it, like, just the packaging alone, it just
That's
make you felt disappointed with the
Gary,
figure and
people
opening it.
that people that collect Marvel Legends and Black Series are cheap.
no, no, I'm not saying any of that.
No,
I'm
he
not
Whoa.
saying that.
Nah.
What I'm saying is,
I can
when you get the
Gary,
item out.
next time I give you a Black Series figure, I can put a bow on it for you if you want me to.
Well, just think. But he's right though. Think about the packaging for the Marvel Legends, right? You open it, you can get the thing back in there, but it's not the most solid of packaging, right?
Yeah, well, it's also a $20 toy.
Right, but you
Like,
also
a
on
Mezco is
Mythic
a
Legion,
different
it's a
packaging
$35
'cause you're-
toy, and the packaging's
Yeah,
much easier to fuck with.
I wasn't. I don't collect anything in package, so I wasn't really worried
Yeah,
about
Gary
the
wasn't
packaging.
talking about the
How do
package.
you how
I
do
was
you
talking
enjoy?
about the initial feeling.
You were
get.
talking about the
Now you
packaging.
got to open your toys once in a while, and then you'll kind of get that feeling instead of just stacking them up at your
Go
mom's.
back and listen to what you said. You were talking a lot about it packaging.
No,
I mean, even when I open the Black Series compared to a an SH Figworks, like I still get the same excitement from it. Like
There you go, JD.
Black Series they've been killing it. They're right there with SH Figworks with a lot of these recent lines that they've been putting out.
From a sculpt perspective, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, of course, you're not getting all the extras and
Right.
The 16 hand, all the hands and just the articulation
Correct,
is a little bit better. But I agree with you, JD. Like, and
for what it is,
I don't know.
they do a damn good job at what they're doing.
And I think that Figworks are overpriced now, in my opinion. Compared, look what you're getting for $20.
It makes you ask the question, right? It makes you ask the question.
I don't know. I enjoy paying the extra price, so I don't have to pose my figures with fists the whole time. But and Gary, real quick, that Blink figure, you did pick that up, right?
Yeah.
And did you open it? And were you still disappointed in that one?
Yeah, no, it was fine for what it is. It's not that I probably didn't make my point very well because it really wasn't about the packaging feeling.
I'm not talking about the packaging.
Yeah, it was cool.
You needed a fix.
He's talking about her packaging. Gary, is she packing? Is she packing, Gary?
So what's up, Dave? Did you answer?
No, he didn't.
You can go, JD. I want to hear what you got.
Yeah, we need to get
Don't worry about
JD's
Dave. Dave's the one asking the questions. Go.
Whoa, I'm the captain now.
Go.
All right. So I feel this is it's an interesting topic. So do you gauge this on, yes, exactly. Do you gauge this on, all right, if I have to get rid of one of these lines, do I keep what I can, do I get the most money for it? If we're looking at it like Dom or Gary would look at it.
Whoa.
Sorry. There's just different ways that you can look at it. Like what Transformers don't seem to hold their value the way that Legions do. So you could make your decision that way. You have your lore opposed to not lore. You have content as opposed to not having content. I don't know. I guess for me, Transformers have always been there. You know what I mean? I can watch the cartoon, be fine with that. I know that Transformers will always be there. Like on the whatever secondary market, they'll keep making these things. Hasbro or third party companies, they will continue to ship these things out year after year. I feel that I would probably stick with the Legions just because of the customization aspect of them. There is no lore. You can, aside from the one comic book they put out, like Transformers, I feel like I haven't really bought anything Transformers other than like when we find Siege stuff. Like there's not there's not much that's been coming out third party masterpiece that I'm really interested in anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I'd rather spend that extra whatever I'm spending $200 on a figure. And you had said before too, Dave, like TFCon's coming up, so I'm trying to, 'cause I'm sure that'll prompt some.
Yeah, I'll get the juices flowing again.
Yeah,
But,
The
J-
thing-
but like
JD,
I also like I just feel that I can like myself I can get a lot more out of Legions than I can
Yeah.
the Transformers. Transformers have been here for how long? Almost 40 years, and like it's not really going anywhere. This is more of a niche thing. The Legions is more of a niche. It's its own little thing. So I feel like that would be more where I would end up.
right.
Would be keeping that.
Yeah, you just hit a spot for me because you're right. Transformers has been around for fucking 40 years, right? And it's like we're holding on to something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're holding on to something from our childhood when these are new figures that are, getting us involved and intrigued, and we're all over them and just kind of taking the new. You know what I mean? Kind of like forget about that.
Do you guys
Good
feel
point.
like
Good point.
Transformers is more of a nostalgia capturing that kid feel
Of
that
course.
you had when you were a kid?
Yeah.
You think
Well,
Mythic Legions is more of I'm a kid again and I'm enjoying a brand new toy that I can just enjoy and be creative and use my imagination again.
Right.
I don't know about you, Dom, but I've always been a kid. I'm not a kid.
I know. Okay, you little shit. Grow up, JD. Okay, fucking start pay your damn taxes. But like the thing is that like I feel the that Mythics is more towards like I'm enjoying a toy, like a brand new toy that I never experienced in the past. This is not me capturing my youth, or in any case, it's just me being youthful again and just using my imagination and using that love that I had back when I was a kid, when I was introduced to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and fucking G.I. Joe and He-Man and all that stuff. So that's where that's what like the difference is. So
I think JD is thinking more practically about the question.
Yes.
He's like, look, if I have to choose today between one or the other, I'm going with Mythics because Transformers will never go away.
Yeah, it's always going to be here.
yeah.
Like I've messed with them since I was a little kid. You know what I mean? It's something that's always been.
But I think
how many
Mythics-
different Optimus Primes did I got? It's like Brian. Like how many times can you play with Optimus Prime for this?
he can play with him a lot.
Well, of course, and Optimus can play with himself too. And now, actually, that's another thing that I wanted to bring up is like just the Transformers alone. Like you got Chug, you got Masterpiece, you got Third Party, you got Legends. So like you stick with the Mythic Legions. I mean, you don't
Just
have
one
to
thing, yeah.
pick. You don't have to pick scale. You don't have to worry about aesthetic. You don't have to worry about all that because it's
You don't have to worry
made by
about.
the same company. It's all the same. It's all the same world.
I agree. That's actually a very, very good point. It's a very attractive point for me
Mhm.
specifically. It's like, wow, all I have to
It
do
keeps you
is buy the
focused.
things they put in front of me. I don't have to make choices. Fine,
Yep.
Well,
dude, this is great.
And then you get them in hand. You can tear them apart, and then you can make choices.
I think that comes back to listen. If Takara, as a manufacturer, had the selection of characters the same way Mythic Legions does, it probably would be maybe a tougher choice between the two. And you weren't trying to compare, like you said, different companies and different quality and different scales and different perceptions and interpretations and stylizations and things like that. It would be far more consistent and cohesive that way.
Yeah.
But that kind of goes back to this. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead, Alex. Go.
It kind of goes back to the established lore thing, though, right? Because what if Takara did put out every character? We'd be done.
And people would be happy with that. It seems like, right?
They'll just make
They'd
better
remake
ones.
them in a different aesthetic. Yeah, they would just keep improving.
On what they've made.
See,
But the thing is, they
But like they're not making every single one just for this reason because every so many years, they're going to change the way that they want them to look. Like in 3 more years, they're going to go back to like this mature look because nobody's really interested in the toon look, or they're going to concentrate on something else. So it's going to be, it's all back and forth, and they can't make their mind up because they don't know what they're doing.
Now, what if the Four Horsemen decide to do the same thing? And what I mean by that is, let's just say they because there's talks of them coming out with figures that are going to be ready, available for us like all the time. They're not going to be so hard to buy anymore, right? Would you think that would, like kind of deter you from wanting to collect them because now they're readily available, and basically your price is going to depreciate too because nobody's going to be searching for them as hard either. What happens if they decide to change the molds on them and make them more articulated than they are now? Let's say 3 years down the line, and now your 1.0 figures that are worth 150 $200 today are selling for $30 again in 2 or 3 years.
A better articulation.
With
Right.
Upgraded like elbows and knees and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know though, but chances are you'd still be able to swap out the parts, like the main parts. I don't know. Well, I can't put words.
I think they would keep that in mind. I don't think the aesthetic would change. If anything, it would be like they would just redesign and retool the joints.
But the thing is, the 1.0 figures are still good though.
Yeah.
They are.
I mean, Dave, are you thinking about them re-releasing them? Like, here's Adamon again with better articulation and
with
better
ratcheted hips, knees, and ankles. Yeah.
So they don't fall. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting, Dave.
Right.
But if you think about the way you pose that question, no, let's forget about them putting out the figures with more articulation or something like that, and instead, again, what if they're like, oh, we're changing our distribution model and we can just, it's like vintage Star Wars all over again. It's like, yeah, every once in a while we'll put out the ones that haven't been out for a while, right?
Right.
That way everyone new to the hobby can have regular access to these things at retail price. And that means for us, I mean, you don't have to chase those down. And basically, it gives you that luxury that JD was talking about with Transformers. Be like, well, Transformers will always be around. What if Mythics is always being around? That's an interesting way to think about it.
But is that a luxury, being able to obtain them like all the time? Like for me, it kind of depreciates it a little bit. Like I'm not gonna be able to hunt for anything now because you know what? I could just get it tomorrow. It's gonna be there tomorrow.
No way. Then we can talk more people into buying these things.
JD is 100% right.
That's how I look at it.
And if there's more people interested, then the chances of a line having a greater longevity are going to go up.
Yeah, and think about the salt on the boards and in the Facebook groups. It'll just go insane like Transformers. It'll be.
And there's not. I mean, it's just 4 dudes. You know what I mean? And they're like, they're not. It's not Hasbro. It's not this big multi-billion-dollar corporation. So they're not. They're not trying to pull anything over. You know what you're getting. You know what's coming out.
I think it's a balancing act on how you do. Like these days, you want your collector value. You want that collector value. And I'm not saying value to the point is dollars. I'm just saying that I got a figure in my collection that's rare. It's hard to get, and I have it. I obtained it, and I have it. And that brings your collection to a certain stature because you have some of those hard to find figures or rare figures that are hard to get. So it's like, believe me, when small groups like this start a line and they decide on how, I'm sure that with them it's just they had a certain run and that's all they could do and they're moving on to the next one. I don't think they're intentionally shorting supply to build demand, and then obviously the second market goes crazy for them. But the thing is that I think with the 4 Horsemen, they were just I'm doing the run, and this is what I'm ordering, and I'm moving on to the next. And they are appeasing the masses by doing these all-star lines and trying to get back to some of the old figures that were in the 1.0 line to get them to people who are coming into these lines now. It's just that you do lose some of that collector value, and people who value their collection in regards to having rare items in their collection. It definitely would be, some saltiness there, and saying, wow, you just devalued my collection by reissuing a very hard to find figure.
Well, it's kind of like what Fansoys is doing with their repaints, right?
Exactly. So I'm talking about collector value. I'm not talking about
it's the same
resale
thing.
value.
I'm not talking about resale value. I'm just talking about what you just said.
It's just collector value in regards to sometimes a collection is is what you have and the rarity of what you have. Sometimes when you have some hard to find figure that is hard to find, and you have it because you jumped on it, whether it was known that it was going to be hard to get or not even known, and you jumped on a figure, and then the popularity just got so popular in the distant, in the far off future, and all of a sudden now everybody wants the figure, and that could happen a lot of times, and you're just happy that you have it. So it's just to me, and it's like JD. It's funny because I like before you even made your choice, I kind of figured that Mythics plays to your loves that you like doing, and which is you're customizing, you're a tinkerer, and you basically build those dioramas, and you that's what you do. So Transformers doesn't Transformers doesn't do that. I don't think Transformers gives you the ability to tinker as much as you possibly can with regards to displaying them, putting dioramas up, and it's hard with Transformers, especially because of all the different classes and the different sizes and all that stuff that Transformers has gotten into. And where Mythics, you have one scale, they all fit together, and you can really build a diorama and build that world and to display those figures in, and customize them the way you want, and really play with your toys and just enjoy it from that aspect. So I wasn't shocked in your answer, because I think Mythics definitely plays to those loves that you have in your life right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Alex said, the Transformers don't display as well,
Yeah.
So it's a little harder if you're building dioramas and stuff like that. It's a lot harder.
I agree with you.
That sort of stuff.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I feel like I chose Transformers because of the fact that I just the love that I have for them is so strong. I don't get me wrong. I love the world of Mythic and Knights Army, Knights, Goblins, Orcs, and all that cool shit. But at the end of the day, it's that Transformers fiction and the characters and their stuff is what I loved, and I always pick that.
Don't get me wrong. It is definitely a very, very difficult choice.
It is. It is. That's why
giant robots or knights and demons and shit. That's.
If I had to choose today, I'd probably swing to Transformers, just because I know one day I'm gonna get older, and I'm gonna probably do away with some of this stuff. I'm not saying indefinitely, but I just have that idea in my head that maybe one day I'd want to use the space for something else. And I'm talking maybe when my late 50s or some shit. And I could see myself having, 2 or 3 Transformers, as a display piece, as opposed to 3 Mythic Legions. So I just think that overall, in the grand scheme of things, those will display better in lower numbers. You know what I mean? Like, you could have Megatron and Optimus and call it a day. And that just shows the love for the franchise right there. As opposed to Mythic Legions, yeah, sure, you could have an orc and a dwarf on your shelf and it's going to look cool, but who are they?
It's true.
What is it? Yeah. And it like I said, it's to me, when I got into the Mythics and pulling them out and playing with them, it just brought me to this is a new toy line that I got that kid feel, because I was just into, it's opening up my creativity like it would if I just got introduced to He-Man or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think Four Horsemen is definitely doing a good job with this line. I think they're going to definitely carry it forward and keep it going. Will there be an end to it? Who knows? But at the end of the day, I think they know what they have. They know they have a good thing going, and the fandom is really putting it out there and showing everybody how great these figures are and what you can do with them, and it's building. It's definitely building because the every time they're putting up these pre-orders, people are buying them, and now like the second market is dictating it because they're going back to find these older figures and the prices are going through the roof. So it's like it's there, and hopefully they see that everybody has a love for them and they keep going, and I think with the format they're doing it now, and there's a smaller format where they introduce more molds and different molds and not get repetitive like Marvel Legends and stuff like that. I think they'll definitely turn some heads and keep the fandom growing because of it. Because I think with these smaller waves, like right, JD, like they're more geared towards now doing new bucks, new molds, and focusing on creating different characters rather than repeating character molds and just putting new colors on them and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, like the new wave. I mean, there's new armor and all that kind of stuff. They made
some new sculpts. Yeah, some upgrades, and I'm sure with future releases, they're gonna keep them smaller, and they're gonna be focusing on that because they're working with that other company for distribution. What are you doing now?
But one of the things too is, I think what would be smart for them too is to put out kits like they already did feet and hands, right?
Oh yeah.
If they do other stuff too, that would really help their fans embrace, building their own and stuff. If they have these builders
new helmets,
out,
new heads.
if they have these builders out there regularly now, for retail price, I mean, obviously you can buy the figure and get all the parts you need and stuff like that, which will also be good. I think that would be a good thing too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Do you guys feel like Hasbro still loves Transformers?
No.
So I think that's the difference. Is like we have a brand like Mythic Legions where you can tell they love the figures. You can talk to the guys, and you can tell that they're as excited as you are about the figures. And do you think that impacts how you feel about the line? Is how the people creating it feel?
That's an interesting point, because what do you
For
think?
me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
are you thinking from a Hasbro perspective? It's like, oh, we're like a company that needs to make money. We have shareholders, so we have this property, so let's just keep banging them out, right?
Yeah.
Do you think?
So Four Horsemen don't own a factory. They don't have any overhead. They go to the factory, they contract them to make them. Hasbro has, a few thousand employees that they've got to keep working. They have to keep pumping out figures. If they don't, then nobody gets a paycheck. Right. And that definitely kills the love, I think.
And I think with regards to the designers are making the toys with Hasbro, I'm sure the love is there. It's just that the corporate bureaucracies get involved to where certain things are cut, and maybe the love of what you would do as a director. Because I talk to designers within my own industry, and they would love to do, like, they put out a design and it's like gold plated, where they're throwing it's balls to the wall. I don't care what the budget is. This is what it looks like. And then all of a sudden you start seeing cutbacks because they got, there's got to be some type of money, profit here because we are running a company.
Right. And there's no designer that's like, let's add a waffle in his leg. You know?
Exactly. Doing that. But like, I think with Four Horsemen, with them being true designers and starting this adventure in regards to making these toys, I think some of those decisions weigh more towards their designer love rather than their corporate, let's make, what I'm saying? Like, I think they were going to be like, you know what, fuck it. If it's going to cost us another $4, $1 a unit, let's do it because it's good. But unlike, I think some of those decisions lay more towards the designer rather than the corporate, like, let's pay, let's keep this going because I want this company to survive. Mm-hmm. So it's weird. It's a good question, but I think sometimes Hasbro gets a low blow to the fact that it's believe me, it's a company, and there's some type of bureaucracies that are going on to where they don't put the Mercedes-Benz out there all the time.
Right.
Would you call MP44 Mercedes Benz?
Who knows? Who knows what cut they cut from that fucking figure? Who knows? From the design aspect, who knows like what they've cut back? We'll never know. You know what I'm saying? We'll never know. So they I'm sure that when they designed it and put some other stuff that they felt would be more privy to that elite type collecting aspect, and say, you know what, that's going to cost us way too much per unit. Let's just drop that material down, or let's not put those ratchets there, or let's use weaker ratchets here because the fact that we still got to make our margins per unit. It happens, dude. It happens with every type of business.
Dude, they made 4 times their margin with that fucking figure.
JD just hates corporations, dude.
I do. I've worked for them and I didn't make it.
I know, but
I couldn't see eye to eye. I don't conform. I'm sorry.
Conform, JD.
No. Fuck no. Go fuck yourself, Dom. I don't know conforming.
You make him so evil, JD. It's not. You're taking it personal.
Well, no. I'm not taking it personal. So, are we still talking about the whether the company designing it loves it? Right. My internet got all fuckety there.
Yeah.
No problem.
So I feel we got all these millennials making fucking toys they know nothing about. They didn't grow up with any of this stuff, and they're the ones designing it. You know what I mean? So there isn't any love there for what. And then you got your old people that don't, the people,
sure,
the shareholders and the people higher up. They're older. They work for a fucking toy company. They don't care what they're making as long as it's making money.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's there probably aren't too many of us, our generation, that actually grew up with that stuff. There probably aren't many of us that are actually doing it.
Yeah, JD, I hate to rain on your parade, but
please rain.
I think some of the people that are in the uppity up part of these companies are our age. We're not. We may think we're young, but we're not.
Dude.
And so but perhaps maybe these people, they get I don't want they start drinking the Kool-Aid, right? And they start they're like what's the Lego dude, Mr. Business? Who was the guy? Was that his name, Mr. Business?
Mr. Business, yeah.
Will
Mr.
Ferrell,
Business.
right?
Yeah, Will Ferrell,
He forgot how to play until the end of the movie when his kid messed up his Lego city. I don't know. I think yeah. I mean, I can understand, like you said, but I think the understanding that you got 60-year-olds making all these decisions is no, man. I think these are people closer to our age that are basically, wow, what are they? What's the term? Is I don't want to say the R word.
I mean, you're right.
Stealing our
I
childhood.
get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, though. You're right.
But JD, the only thing I'm saying, JD, is that when you're in that position and you got pressures coming from left and right, the thing with those pressures, you need to basically balance it to say, I can't ignore it, because if I put the Mercedes Benz out there, I might not have a job because I'm not making, I might not be able to put or keep my employees working, because at the end of the day, the business fails because we're not making money.
Right.
So those pressures of people are there. They're true. They're real. So at the end of the day, some of this love gets put out there, and they need to make it work. They got to find a balance, and that balance sometimes can't appease everybody. And at the end of the day, we just have to understand it. And that's what I'm just trying to say, that there needs to be some type of understanding that these guys are trying to put the best toy out there. And when they say the best toy to the point that it's making everybody happy from a business perspective and from a consumer's perspective. So it's like I said, believe me, if this was a perfect world, and money didn't have to. The money is not an issue. Believe me, people be cranking out beautiful things, but it doesn't happen.
I also feel that a company like that, it shouldn't matter. They got enough of it. They make enough toys.
And not to beat a dead horse, but I agree with JD. Like, especially them funding this Unicron, they should just fucking make it. Call it a day. We got enough people interested. Close
Call
the
it a
shit
pre-order.
and start doing it.
Yeah.
I agree.
You don't need fucking funding to make a goddamn toy.
Yeah.
I believe me, there's a part of me that agrees with you guys, but there's a part of me that says, you know what, I can understand. It's actually it works to their advantage because it's basically dissolving risk, because at the end of the day, if we don't fund this thing, they're gonna say, well, guess what, you guys didn't want it and you didn't fund it. So
I heard
that shit's getting made without
internet.
getting made no matter what right now.
I know, I'm sure it is, but it's like it's going to be a bad. Like, what happens if it doesn't fund, and then all of a sudden is there going to be more?
They're going to make it anyway. That's what they're going to do.
No, they're not. It's going
to. I bet they will.
If it doesn't fund, they're not going to make it, because then HasLab is completely then gone. They got to stay by their word, because if they don't,
they're going to make it anyway.
Well, you mean like the numbers are just going to go right to 8,000?
No. Like, okay, well, we got close, but we can do it anyway.
They don't have to divulge the numbers to us.
Yeah,
they could just make it and say they hit their goal and they didn't hit it.
They do it with their votes, like they did the fan votes. I agree. They do it with the fan votes for like Black Series and all that kind of stuff. They put votes out there for characters to, who do our fans want the characters to be made of? What is it every time? A new Luke Skywalker.
Because they have it already. All you gotta do is fucking do a few things to it.
Well, they did other characters.
They offered different pilots, aliens. Come on.
No, but the Solo character was Jaina Solo was made from a fan base vote. Sure. So
yeah, that's fine.
That's not Luke.
That's not another Luke.
Yeah, so like, what are you talking about? They don't always make Luke. Those votes were valid, and at the end of the day, people voted for Luke, dude. What are you gonna say? It's like that's what happened. So like, I agree with if this thing is going to be made, they're going to fudge the numbers, and nobody's going to know, and the number is going to go up to 8,000, and that's it. That's how it's going to be done. They're not going to. I'm telling you right now, if the number is 6,000 and they don't make the 8,000 and they say, oh, we're going to make it anyway, HasLab pretty much falls to the wayside, because it's not what they were saying.
But they don't need it. That's the thing. They don't need it. They can just make it. They can afford to make it.
You know what? You're right, JD. Like, all right, so we get 8,000 people to say we're going to buy it. Let's fucking, we'll make it. But 6,000 people is not enough. So 6,000 people said they want it, and you're not going to make it because why? Because you're not making the overhead on the 2,000 other fucking pieces.
Well, then, okay, let's turn the tables.
Well, that's the gag. They've made it already.
If
that's still $3 million.
Okay, guys, let's think of this perspective. If they took this project on their own and they say, okay, here's this.
You work for fucking Hasbro, bro. I fucking know it.
No, I don't.
Fucking fighting for them. You do.
Just trying to make you fucking think. Expand your horizons here a little bit. But fucking listen. Open it. Yeah. So say they fund this on their own. They proposed a group. A project team comes up to an exec and says, we're gonna do Unicron. We need to sell 8,000 to make our margin. You think we're going to sell 8,000? This is a risk. They're pitching. Yeah, of course we're going to sell 8,000. No problem. People are going to love this shit. Okay, they make it, and now only 6,000 because the numbers are coming in where only 6,000 is going to sell. They lost money. They lost money on this risk. And then all of a sudden they said, you know what? We lost all this money. We can't fucking make Siege anymore, or we can't do Masterpiece anymore. Well, Transformers just fucking died.
Dude, they're the biggest.
If they don't fund Unicron, Transformers just die.
Dude, I'm talking absolutes here, buddy. Okay.
They're the biggest.
Get on my Anakin. Get off my Anakin, motherfucker. Okay.
They're the biggest toy company in the world. They're not. No, they're not in that position.
Oh, Isn't that the problem, though? Is an artist going to a board member to figure out what he should make? Like, shouldn't the artists just create what they want and then figure out how to?
I think that's usually how it goes. Is they kind of make what they want to make, and then they
find out how profit. Yeah,
This is what I came up with this month, and
Right.
you know, I mean, I think that's how they do it.
But I'm sure then there's a board meeting that like, well, let's paint it red. No, red's too blah 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 with the whatever group. And I think that's where these projects die. Is whenever somebody has a direction, they want to build something, and then they bring it to a committee, and this committee just shits all over it and tears it apart to make it fit whatever packaging or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To meet the least expensive,
Right.
the most cost efficient.
Yeah.
My
way.
brand is dying, Senator, and you want to discuss this in a committee.
So I think that's what my problem with Hasbro really is they haven't been good stewards to their brands. Like, they haven't taken care of their brand. And with Four Horsemen, I trust those guys to take care of their brand.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
bread and butter.
Right. And I don't know. Maybe it'll change down the road when they get bigger and they start cutting costs to, make more money or whatever. But I just don't see that in them because they all have other jobs too,
Yeah, but that's what they're doing right now with their distribution. They're getting rid of some of the work that they're doing. They don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
Alex,
they
I
got
think
a little
you hit
too
it.
big for their
I think you
britches.
hit I think you hit it right on the head with regards to that. I think this is their passion project.
Right.
And, they have their other jobs. They do these design toys for obviously other companies because Mattel is picking them up and they're doing the Thundercats for Super 7. So they're they're putting food on the table and fucking clothes on their back regarding that avenue. This is their passion project where they can just do what they want to do and not have to fucking sacrifice.
So okay, so they started this as a Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Legion started as a Kickstarter because they are a small company, you know what I mean? Like, they may do all the sculpt work and all that for Mattel and Super 7, but like, they never really released anything on their own. I mean, they did. There was a few other lines, but they weren't nearly as successful as like the Legions are. Like, that makes sense doing it as a Kickstarter, doing the crowdfunding. It makes more sense for a smaller company to do it. A bigger company doesn't need to do it. They already have. They want the interest. They're looking to
do it, but it's almost like they're not confident in their product enough to fucking put it out.
Exactly.
It's taking a loan. It's like don't
need a loan. That's the point.
JD, my company takes out loans to build projects.
Cool.
Every fucking company does.
Loan with you then.
Oh my god,
Hasbro,
dude.
call Dom. You
fucking think
money.
You fucking think Hasbro has like these fucking money trees in their backyard? Like, welcome to the fucking real world. Welcome to the real world, JD. At the end of the day, the business is got to fucking take loans out. This Kickstarter is a fucking loan. It's just a fucking goddamn loan that you're getting from the customer rather than a fucking bank.
It is a 2-year interest.
Oh, 2-year interest on $500. Put $500 in the bank, JD. See what you're gonna get for 2 years. You're gonna get fucking goddamn $5.
$4.6 million. Interest on that. That's what it is.
Oh God!
Well,
The money's already being spent. The money's already being spent, JD. The fucking mold, the design is already spent, and
it's
then
already
the money,
done.
The money's going to be reimbursing that.
They've already spent the money, and it didn't cost them that much.
It's
already done.
I can't work with him. I can't work with him.
Maybe we should talk about Unicron ever.
Well, the thing is, in today's day and age, I mean, you can just ask for money; people give it to you.
People give it
exactly.
Put a website up there.
GoFundMe's are there.
I guess you can't blame them. It's like, yeah,
you just need a fucking sad story, and that's where you got $1,000.
Cool. Well, and everybody that throws their money in there.
I got a fucking problem. I can't do this shit. GoFundMe.
Hey, I need a Mythic Legion's pre-order money.
Exactly. GoFundMe.
See, now you're making fun of them. Like you You just spent all this time defending him, and now you're making fun of him, Dom.
No. My point is that like money is raised.
You
Like,
get fired tomorrow.
whether you take it from retained earnings, which I'm going from a balance sheet perspective, but retained earnings is the money that you have within the company, or you get it from a bank, or you get it from your fucking equity, which is shareholders, which can't be customers. So it's like that's kind of how business works, dude. They have to get the money from somewhere.
The thing was already made. It was already made.
Oh my god. I love you, bro. I love you, JD. I love you.
I think we could end that topic here.
There we go. There we go.
Go fuck
Guys, as a
yourself.
reminder, there's some other shows on the network.
No, it's this show. That's it.
I want to. Dom, shut up. You calm now?
Who? Me?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Hit this
No, Dom.
Yeah,
Oh
Dom.
yeah, I'm fine.
Dom's the one with the blood pressure problem here.
Blood pressure problem.
I've
You're the
never
one with the
seen you so red.
toothache.
Yeah, that made my sugar pretty good.
You guys, you want to close out on anything? Anything else you want to say about this topic?
I'm just glad. I'm glad that there's choices out there. So it just basically gives you the decision to collect whatever you want and whatever makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about.
Yep. And I agree, and I think that the diversity between the two lines.
From my corporate perspective.
Dom's an apologist.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say between the diversity of the two lines, it's enough to keep me intrigued with both. So I like the fact that I can bounce back from one and the other. So I'm not going to choose a side. Like I said earlier, if I had to, it would be Transformers, but Mythic Legions is a pretty cool collection so far, and I hope that it keeps going.
So to translate what Dave said, it's like having a wife and a girlfriend on the side. So
Yeah,
who's your wife?
Transformers is my wife, and
Mythic Legion is the girlfriend.
Transformers is my wife, and Mythic Legion is Dom's wife.
Oh!
Ouch.
Let me cry now.
It's all right. You'll be on vacation with her. Have fun.
Just bring her back, right?
Just bring her back in two pieces.
Okay. Jesus Christ! Why do I
Anybody
call them
else?
friends?
Are we good?
No, I think
I'm
we're good.
afraid to say anything else
Why are you afraid?
Yeah.
because then we'll never get off this podcast, and I'll never go pee.
Well, Alex, thank you for joining us, buddy.
Sure, anytime. I've had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks
for
for
this
being
awesome
here.
topic.
Yeah, let everybody know where they can find you, Alex.
Collecticon on Instagram, in the realm as Alex Riggs. It's pretty much all I am on Facebook is in the realm. I just made it to talk to you guys.
Awesome.
Cool.
Hey, how long you been growing that beard? Because your profile picture has you not having a beard.
This is a year old. In the
Wow.
summertime, I shave it off. In the wintertime, I let it grow back.
But you missed the summer.
Yeah. I know, I did.
That's all right. That's all right, though.
So, like, every year, we have to do fit tests for rebreathers at work because of the powders we use and stuff. So I have to shave it for that. So it's really around that time that I do it. I shave it off, get that fit test, then grow it back out.
Oh, and then when you use your breather with your long beard, it doesn't work properly, and all that shit goes up your nose. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Well, thank you. JD, how about you?
You can find me pissing Dom off. Arguing.
Again.
Starting arguments. Again. Yeah, again.
JD and Dom are the new Dom and Dave.
Oh, it is?
Fuck you, JD, Dom.
I love JD. I love JD. You know, I just can't break him. I can't break him.
Real world.
I don't. Yeah, you need to. You know, I'm just jealous. Truly, truly jealous to have that perspective and just live a nice, kid life.
You can do it and still
I know.
do what you do.
I don't know, JD. I don't know.
You can. You can. It's just a no bullshit way of life. That's all. Anyway, yeah, you can find me Pigment Surgery on Instagram and Xbox Live. Here every Tuesday with these guys, and tomorrow night all new figure banging.
Oh,
Figure.
Nice.
Oh,
Gonna
like
be-
Brian's like, oh, great.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be a
long week.
How about
If
you,
he-
Brian?
fixed it.
You can find me, Brian Brink, in the Facebook groups, at Brinklizer on Instagram. And I just want to say, for those of you supporting Unicron, it's been a rough week. You might want to each go out there and buy another 20.
Is it limited to 5 per household?
5.
I think
yes.
you can make multiple purchases.
I think. Yeah, it's just 5
Oh, I
per
remember.
purchase.
Yeah.
How about you, Dom?
You can find me in the groups Dominic Grasso and here Tuesday nights with these guys that
But
I
you will
call
not be here
friends.
for the next 2 weeks, right?
I next week. Yeah, next week. I'm
1 week?
I'm going to. Yeah, it's just 1 week. I'll be back the following. But next
Short.
week I will be on location. If you want me guys to call in on an iceberg, I can definitely do it.
Short show next week, fellas.
Short show. Why is that?
Short crew or short
It
show?
won't be so long-winded, you know what I'm saying?
Dom won't be here to.
I'm out. I'm
Oh,
quit.
he quit.
I quit. I'm gonna start a fucking goddamn podcast with Matt.
There he goes. There he goes.
Baldwin.
You're all
Matt,
weirdos. I'm
give
out
me
of
a
here.
call. Give me a call. Done.
You can both
Out.
talk about how much you love Hasbro.
Bro, yeah.
You can
We
be the
love Hasbro.
Hasbros.
Fucking get with the Kool-Aid, motherfucker. Drink it.
Well, thanks, Dom. We'll be missed next week. We will have another guest next week. Don't know who that is yet, but don't worry about it. I'm working on it. So, thanks for
Good job,
watching.
Dave.
Just a quick word from somebody who closes out the show like nobody else. So here you go.
All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to check us out on realmofcollectors.com. We're on Facebook as a group, Realm of Collectors. We're on Instagram at Realm of Collectors. Crashbox Customs on social media for all your Mezco and diorama needs. Mention the word Realm when placing an order. You'll get a surprise gift with your purchase. And don't forget the rest of the shows on the Cool Table Network. Enter the Realm, Breaking the Mold, Shattercast Uncut, Nerd Rage Radio, Plastic Fanatics, Toy D-Sock, Stasis Lock, Building Up to a Fresh Communication, and Verbally Challenged. You can find the Cool Table page on Facebook along with links to all those other awesome podcasts. Good night.
Say it with me now.
Thanks for watching. This is Breaking the Mold. See you next week.
Happy birthday, Chat Wingingham.
That's
Happy
right.
birthday,
Happy
man.
birthday, dude.
Chat Williams.
Later. Doodles.
Is that your